Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat? One of the really fascinating stories of this offseason has been Sean Payton. That's for the entirety of the NFL, not just here locally, but obviously for all of the NFL and all of football. When a massively successful head coach who is a championship-winning head coach leaves the game on his own at a relatively young age, that's always going to be very interesting. We talked about it a lot when Sean left and how it wasn't really a surprise. He's from the Bill Parcells tree. Parcells did this, won Super Bowls with the Giants, and then did TV for a couple of seasons, then jumped back into coaching. Obviously, we saw him with the Patriots and the Jets and then the Cowboys. But it's no surprise. Like Sean, this was always the path that he was going to take. He was never going to be a lifer. He was going to follow the Parcells path, and it looks like he's doing just that. The really interesting part for the Saints is, and the reason that we are all following these types of stories, is because if the Saints own Sean Payton's rights still, as he was under contract, so if Sean Payton wants to get back into coaching, which we all expect he will, if it's next year or the following, whatever it may be, whoever wants to acquire Sean Payton will have to compensate the Saints to allow him out of that contract. There's always this question of what would compensation look like, and I'm getting to the point because there's an update today. And I don't believe that it's plucked from the air. I believe that there is legitimacy here. The thing that I'll remind you of is that when John Gruden was traded from Oakland to Tampa Bay, Tampa gave up 2 1s, 2 2s, and $8 million to get John Gruden from the Raiders. So I'm not saying that if Sean Payton comes back in, that's going to be the baseline. But at least it's some perspective. And at that point, Gruden was a young coach in his 30s who hadn't won a championship yet. He won a championship his first year in Tampa, coincidentally, beating the team he had left, the Oakland Raiders. But that's part of this, is that the Saints are going to get some significant compensation if Sean Payton gets back into coaching, which is kind of why I'm rooting for it, and I think many of you are as well. So here's the update today from Barry Jackson of the Miami Herald. So this isn't Rub Apple Slice Bread. I mean, this is a legitimate news source. This is a guy in Barry Jackson who's covered South Florida sports for more than 3 decades. And so at the Miami Herald today, the headline is, "Every Dolphin fan should root for Mike McDaniel, but here's a Sean Payton update just in case." And in the report from the Miami Herald, Barry Jackson report citing a source close to Sean Payton that Payton has 3 destinations in mind for next football season should he choose to coach in 2023. And those 3 are the Miami Dolphins, who reportedly had a flirtation with Sean Payton this offseason with the idea of bringing Sean Payton and Tom Brady together in Miami. There were reports that they even offered Tom Brady ownership in the Miami Dolphins to get that deal done. It clearly didn't happen. The Los Angeles Chargers are another, and the third is the one we all expect, which is the Dallas Cowboys. Now, per the report from Barry Jackson, there are 3 main criteria that Sean Payton's considering. 1 is warm weather. When you get old and achy, bro, you don't want to go deal with the snow. And when you're an offensive-minded guy like Sean Payton, it makes sense. You don't want to go play 8 games in a cold weather environment outdoors. Not that Buffalo's open, but you don't want to go to Buffalo or to Green Bay. Not that those spots are open, but you understand my point. He wants to be somewhere where the weather is warm, and I get it. Okay, that's 1. 2, he wants to go to a contender, a place with a roster that can contend, and that makes a lot of sense as well. Miami did a tremendous job this offseason of adding pieces to their roster to build a contender around Tua. We've talked a lot about Tyreek Hill. They've got plenty of offensive weapons there with Gesicki, and I get it. Okay, they added Teron Armstead, obviously familiarity there with Sean Payton. So Miami would make sense. The Chargers last year under Brandon Staley, year 1, they were 9-8. So, they just missed the playoffs, actually collapsed that way. But the Chargers had a winning record, a young, talented quarterback, one of the best offensive weapons in the game as well. So that makes sense. And then Dallas, you've still got Dak Prescott in place, and you're in a weirdly winnable division, and Dallas always seems to be a team we talk about every year but never quite gets over the hump. So we all understand why Dallas would be in there. So warm weather, a roster that can contend, and control over personnel decisions. That's the one that might be a tricky point for Dallas because Jerry Jones is so involved. But the relationship he has with Sean Payton, they may be able to get over that. So those were the three. I guess what's interesting is, and it's also worth noting that this source close to Payton, who cited the Miami Herald, said Sean Payton would never go lobby for a job that is filled. So he wouldn't go to Miami and say, hey, fire Mike McDaniel and hire me. If there were an opening, he might pursue that. But something else to keep in mind also on the Miami front is Tom Brady's a free agent after 2023. And Tom Brady said today that he's not saying he will play next year. He's not saying he won't play next year. So there could very well be the possibility that Tom Brady goes to Miami and plays next year with Sean Payton. Like, that deal could be redone. The other thing I'll remind you about with Miami is firing a coach after 1 year wouldn't be altogether unprecedented. They did that with Cam Cameron. Cam Cameron was the head coach for 1 year. He was 1-15. They axed him. So there's precedent there in Miami for firing a coach after one season. I don't think Miami is going to be terrible this year. But then again, they just had a really good coach in Brian Flores, who they fired, and I don't mean to get into all the particulars of that case, but I guess my point is it's kind of the cost of doing business. If you'd have to pay a large buyout to a coach to get rid of him to get the guy you want, you do it, and if you're a billionaire owner, you don't really care. You're flippantly spending money anyway, and if you're trying to build a winner, that's what you do. So, Mike McDaniel would be an interesting one in Miami, where clearly there would be an opportunity to build a winner there. The Chargers are interesting to me because Brandon Staley at 39 years old feels like a really good young coach. He's got their quarterback of the future there with Justin Herbert, who at this point is entering year 3 of his professional career, his second year with Staley, and you might think that they would build upon that, but in a really tough division. So could you see things going sideways in Los Angeles with the Chargers? Maybe, because you got to play Kansas City twice and you got to play the Raiders twice, and they just brought the best receiver in football there to pair with Carr, his college teammate. And then obviously Russell Wilson's in Denver, so that division got really, really tough. Is it plausible you could see a scenario where the Chargers take a step back, and if they have an opportunity to get Peyton, they move on? Maybe. You could certainly do that. And Dallas is the one that forever has always made the most sense. It's just, Mike McCarthy, who came in the COVID year, which was really tough situation to come in, but 2 years there with McCarthy, they just haven't put it together. So it wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility for Jerry Jones to make that decision after year 3 if they wanted to move on and he had an opportunity to get Sean Payton. I guess my point is with this is that any of the 3 situations, they could all make it work if they wanted to, right? If the situation presented itself where Sean Payton wanted to get back in, any one of those 3 spots, if they coveted Sean Payton, there's a scenario where they can make it work. Now, maybe Miami wins the division this year, and that's not even a conversation. Maybe year 2 under Staley, 3 under Herbert, they take a giant step and win the division, and this isn't even a conversation. I don't think Dallas is going to win their division this year, but then again, who really knows what to expect out of that division? Dallas still feels like the most likely, but I do respect the source. This is Barry Jackson, who has covered sports in South Florida for 35 years. This is being reported in the Miami Herald. This isn't a fly-by-night podcaster or internet source, or citing sources. This feels reputable. So if that's what Sean Payton's eyeing, those are the 3 as of now: Dolphins, Chargers, Cowboys. And we'll continue to watch this with keen interest because we all have a very keen interest in what happens with Sean Payton. For me, I'd prefer him to go either Miami or Los Angeles because I would rather see Sean Payton in the AFC than in the NFC. Dallas still feels like the most likely, but whatever it's going to take for the Saints to get compensation for Sean Payton, at this point I want, especially after you traded away your draft picks a year ago moving up in round 1. So As that develops, we'll follow it. But for now, that's the latest involving Sean Payton and his future. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.